boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. What is the continued fallout of controversial Olympian Imane Khelif's resurgence in the amateur scenes at an amateur tournament in the Netherlands? Former IBF super lightweight champion Mary McGee responded to it by saying, "You see how long it took for that man to fight again, right, IQ? It's because we found out Imane was a man. He had not fought at all until he found somewhere that he could hide and fight again. Because with all that, fam, why haven't you done anything with it? Because he knows.
He knows he's a man.
He knows he's got a micro penis and inside-out balls. I don't care what they think about what I said. We should not have to fight men, no matter the situation. I understand he may not have known he was a man at first, but I don't feel bad enough for him to let him stay in our sport. Where is the protests? I need to sign it."
The outrage. It's all coming back.
Like it never left. I remember the scenes at the last Olympic Games when Hungary's own Luca Hamori came up against one of the controversial athletes,
Pleading with her coach, "I don't care, I just can't win." Her coach telling her, "Luca, look at me now. You should concentrate on the match." To which Luca said, "It's a man. I can't win."
Now, do you think that Luca Hamori doesn't know the difference between fighting a biological male and fighting a biological female? Do you think that this was her first outing or that this was her first rodeo? Is she making a mistake or is the IOC deliberately playing dumb? The only arguments in favor of Imane Khelif's continued participation in the women's category without further clarification are members of a group that Imane Khelif doesn't even claim to be a part of, because Imane Khelif does not identify as an LGBTQ person, a trans athlete, a trans person.
Because I don't think that would go over well with the Algerian public, most of which happens to be Muslim.
Not as freewheeling or as accepting, accommodating as the trans rights activists that are treating this as if it's a trans rights issue.
We don't know that Imane Khelif is a trans person. This could very well be a DSD issue for all we know, and for all that we don't, we need further clarification. So I remember that immediately after the games, there was talk of Imane Khelif potentially going pro.
And I said it then. That shit ain't gonna happen. That shit ain't gonna work, not in the pros. You may have been able to get over on the amateurs, in the amateur scene, but the pros, the paid ranks, are a different beast, and the level of cooperation required.
It's a different infrastructure. You got all these commissions in America alone, let alone around the world, all these different sanctioning bodies, all these different promoters, and all of these different fighters. And which one of them do you expect to cooperate with you
when they don't even know what you are? The outrage that Imane Khelif would face as a professional is best characterized by Mary McGee's reaction.
It's a tough situation, whatever it is, but that doesn't mean that the entire sport has to bend the knee to accommodate your unique circumstances and the precedent that it would set moving forward. Escalation
sets a dangerous precedent for any woman boxer aspiring to compete at the highest levels of the amateurs in the pros. There is no audience, there is no paying public for this kind of ambiguity. Don't forget who the core consumers in boxing are, whether it's in the UK market or the US market.
It's men.
In Mexico, like it is in Australia, like it is in Japan.
It's men.
In Russia and the world over, the core consumers for boxing, its customer base is primarily comprised of men. Men who are not going to take too kindly to the idea that this is a biological male competing against biological females. And we don't actually know that it is, but that's the point. You got to clarify that before you can get anywhere.
Amateur circuit is primarily a tournament format where the pros don't operate that way. So the level of cooperation Imane Khelif would need to make it in the pros?
Money moves everything in the pros. The money you can generate makes the world go round in the sport of boxing, pro boxing. But what money is Imane Khelif going to generate when the core customers don't want to watch the fighter fight? They don't know what the fighter is. Don't let the online activism of a few fool you into thinking that Imane Khelif would even have a paying public in the paid ranks. Those folks,
the ones you see online defending Imane, don't represent an iota of the customer base in the sport of boxing. These folks don't watch boxing.
No matter how many of them want to stand on their soapbox on Twitter defending this controversial athlete, these people don't spend a dime, not one red cent, on the sport of boxing. And because they don't,
you're shit out of luck.
Imane Khelif has to stay in the amateurs. That's why I was confident last year the fighter would not go pro. Fast forward all these months, and Imane Khelif is still fighting in amateur tournaments in the Netherlands.
Unbeknownst to most, Imane Khelif already has a professional boxing match, an obscure one.
And between the time that IEBA banned the athlete from competition and the IOC allowed them to come back, in November of 2023, Imane Khelif participated in a pro debut all the way out there in Singapore. Needless to say that ain't one of the preeminent boxing markets.
Fighting some nobody in Singapore will get you nowhere fast, and that's why Imane Khelif was in such a hurry to return to the amateurs. That's why Imane Khelif is still in the amateurs now, in spite of having already won the gold.
Going pro, and staying pro I should say, is not a real option for this fighter. Otherwise, they would have stayed in the pros after 2023. Otherwise, they'd be in the pros now, still in the amateurs. Gee, I wonder why.
The athlete is a hot potato for promoters. To try to promote a fighter that creates this much of a stir, how are they going to sell them?
Who are they going to sell them to? Algeria is not one of the preeminent boxing markets, and the only ones supporting Imane, aside from the Algerians, are trans activists that don't watch boxing.
Virtue signal as much as you like. Unless you spend money in this sport, you don't have any buying power and your opinions don't count.
Without generating money or having money behind the athlete, how is this controversial athlete even supposed to get fights?
Get opponents. Good ones. They're not going to fight somebody like Imane Khelif on the cheap, let alone if in the back of their mind they think they're fighting a guy. How many of them do you think are going to sign up for that?
So Imane Khelif chooses to stay a professional amateur, the only real refuge for someone that controversial.
This fighter has to stay in a bubble like the people support him.
Gotta stay in that biosphere because the rest of the world, they didn't sign up for this, and there's no audience for it in the paid ranks.
I think a fight with you and Teo would be great. I know there was talks, I believe, in the past, off the top of my head, about you guys fighting, but they're saying now maybe him and Jaron Ennis. I would imagine that you would want to put your foot in there also as well to stop that, or would you like to see Teo fight Jaron and then you get the winner?
I mean, I want both of them, so why not? I just double back on both of them. I don't care if they fight each other. I can get both of y'all first.
Do you beat Teo?
You said what? I beat him.
look at your reaction. Like I'm crazy asking you that.
What kind of question?
Hey man, oh, come on. Teo's a great fighter, though. You know.
What you want me to say? No.
No,
he gonna beat me. What you want me to say?
No, I know. No fighter would ever say like, "Oh yeah, that guy will probably beat me."
Man, watch that. I work too hard for this, man. This real life over here.
I gotta ask the question. You know, like fans will be like, "Oh, why did you ask about this and that?"
I'm gonna say this: don't let this light skin and this smile fool you. I like to smile a lot, but when it go into the ring, my name is still the assassin for a reason.
So Brian Norman is throwing his name into the hat for a potential Teofimo Lopez fight. Teofimo Lopez, who's been spending a lot of time calling out Jaron Ennis.
I still feel like Teofimo's just doing it for the optics. A part of me still feels like he's only calling out Jaron Ennis because he doesn't actually expect to get him.
Whatever the case, Eddie Hearn has revealed if Jaron Ennis stays in the welterweight division, he could defend his titles against Teofimo Lopez, but he also reiterated that Ennis could just as easily move up to 154.
There is the matter of Jaron Ennis' mandatory challenger, Shakram Gayasov, to be addressed. Where does he fit into this picture? A subject I've covered already.
What it all lacks sense is that Boots will not be able to see himself crowned this division's undisputed champion. That's how it looks to me. Maybe fighting Teofimo Lopez before he leaves is a possibility, but how probable is that?
How likely?
So if he were to move up right now and pursue a Virgil Ortiz fight or some other fight at 154, Brian Norman would still be there at 147. And as Marcos Villegas stoutly pointed out, Norman versus Lopez was already a conversation some months ago. There was some effort from Top Rank to make that fight. And so you figure, if Boots leaves, Brian's still there, Brian wants to fight you, he's got a belt.
In a situation where Boots moves up, you figure that the 2 alphabet titles he's got, they'll become vacant. At which point, Teofimo could pick one or some of them up. Then, maybe unify them with Brian Norman, with his WBO. Though for that scenario to come into fruition, he's got to beat Jin Sasaki in a few weeks' time in Japan. He's got to stay WBO champion. It's a lot of moving parts.
Enough that talking about this potential fight now is premature. We are kind of putting the cart before the horse.
Still a threat.
Though what does Brian Norman bring to the table that would pose a threat, pose a challenge to Teofimo, who is the so obviously more accomplished fighter, more accomplished on paper? He was a Ring Magazine and lineal champion at 135 and at 140. He's fought more world champions than Brian Norman by a lot.
Still a threat.
The Brian is a threat because he's bigger. Put simply, Teofimo would be moving up to his third weight class, and the higher you go up, the bigger the guys get, the bigger the punches get, the more danger you're in. Teofimo Lopez's power so far as a super lightweight is not what it was at lightweight. Doesn't knock people out that much anymore. When's the last time he knocked somebody out? So if you move up to 147...
You're in the shit now.
Now, Brian Norman is not rated as highly as Jaron Ennis per se, but he is a big boy, strong puncher. If he can get in Teofimo's wheelhouse like Steve Claggett did, well, he can do a lot more damage than Steve Claggett did. Teofimo won the fight, didn't look too spectacular doing it, but you noticed afterwards that his face was all marked up. So just imagine a bigger, stronger, more aggressive Brian Norman doing the exact same thing. How well will Teofimo take the punches? The ring can become a very small place when you're in there with a guy that's noticeably bigger than you are. And Brian Norman is.
He's not the boxer that Teofimo is. Doesn't have all the bells and whistles, the boxing brain.
That is, compared to Teofimo, Brian's approach is a lot more straightforward and a lot more simple, but that doesn't make him any less dangerous. For a smaller fighter moving up, could get hairy. Now, I don't think for a second that Brian Norman is Teofimo Lopez's first or second choice, but in a situation where Boots, who he's been calling out, moves up,
That guy's there.
So you're telling me that he beat Joshua that was already knocked out by a 5'10" Mexican dude eating a Snicker bar. Your other claim to fame is Tyson Fury at 39, 40 years old, way past what we consider boxing prime. And those are only two names, by the way, you mentioned. You're clearing out a division with two names, and then Usyk has a suspect win with Dubois where he got hit in his stomach, which most of us feel that that was a knockdown. But that's the guy that you're claiming that did better things than Inoue. Let's be honest. It's skill for skill. What do you look like as a complete fighter? And if you're going to sit here and tell me that there's any category that Usyk looks better than Naoya Inoue, I would have to debate you on that one. Naoya Inoue is a well-skilled, well-rounded fighter. And in all aspects, to be honest, Naoya Inoue is number one pound for pound over all these dudes if you want to be technical. There isn't anything that Usyk ever accomplished that this didn't do in half the time.
So this was sent to me by someone who wants me to address round one's invalid, uneven evaluation of Inoue's resume versus Alexander Usyk's.
Uneven is the word because you're applying rationale to Usyk's resume that you're not also applying to Inoue's.
In an effort to invalidate Usyk's biggest wins. Let's get into it.
So you're telling me that he beat Joshua that was already knocked out.
He's invalidating Usyk's win over unified champion Anthony Joshua because Anthony had been knocked out before.
Know who else has been knocked out before? Nonito Donaire, before he fought Inoue.
Nonito Donaire was knocked out by Nicholas Walters long before he fought Inoue. Luis Neri was knocked out by Brandon Figueroa before he fought Inoue. And Paul Butler was knocked out by Zolani Tete before he fought Inoue. So if Anthony getting knocked out before he fought Usyk invalidates him as a win for Usyk, that must also invalidate those guys as wins for Inoue.
See how that works?
Your other claim to fame is Tyson Fury at 39, 40 years old, way past what we consider boxing prime.
Except that Tyson Fury was not 39 or 40 years old when he fought Alexander Usyk. In fact, Tyson Fury is younger than Usyk. He was 35 in the first fight.
And you know what else? Tyson Fury was younger in the first fight with Usyk than Donaire was in the first fight with Inoue.
Tyson Fury was 35 years old going into the first Usyk fight, where Nonito was 36 going into the first Inoue fight.
Did you not know that?
And what else? If you're going to accuse Tyson Fury, who was literally younger than Usyk, of being past his prime, that would have to also mean that Usyk was past his prime when he fought him, further removed from it since he's older, which means he deserves even more credit.
Or did you not know that not only was Usyk smaller than Fury, we can see that, but he's also older?
And those are only two names, by the way, you mentioned. You're clearing out a division with two names?
Well, isn't that what Inoue just did at 122? He only had to fight two champions to collect all the belts. Stephen Fulton, then Marlon Tapales.
Did you not know that?
Oh, I see. You don't actually count his wins over Derek Chisora and Daniel Dubois, who went on to have big wins after Usyk beat them.
And then Usyk has a suspect win with Dubois where he got hit in his stomach, which most of us feel that was a knockdown.
Most of us? Who's most of us? Did you conduct an independent poll anywhere to constitute who this most of us is?
Sounds to me like you're just talking about yourself, but you're trying to add other people to it to help strengthen your argument. Who is this most of us?
But that's the guy that you're claiming that did better things than Naoya anyway. Let's be honest. It's skill for skill. What do you look like as a complete fighter? And if you're going to sit here and tell me that there's any category that Usyk looks better than Naoya in a way, I would have to debate you on that one.
But you didn't when you were here on this channel. When I made the case why Usyk is ranked at number 1, at least on my list, above Naoya Inoue, see, Usyk did do something that he knew he didn't do.
Did you forget that Usyk won every single belt he's ever won in the entirety of his boxing career on the road? He knew he never did that.
Alexander Usyk was the away fighter in every title fight that he's ever had. In the cruiserweight division, in the heavyweight division, and he was skillful enough to beat the other guy comprehensively to where they couldn't take it from him.
Michael Hunter in America,
Krzysztof Glowacki in Poland, Maris Briedis in Latvia, Murat Kasiev in Russia,
Tony Bellew in the UK, Derek Chisora in the UK, Anthony Joshua in the UK.
And we know he didn't have home field advantage in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, where he beat Tyson Fury, who outweighed him by a whopping 55 pounds. Hey, round 1. Do you want to point out to me when Inoue has ever fought a guy who outweighed him by that much? By 55 pounds? A guy who's not only taller than he is, longer than he is, younger than he is, and outweighs him by a whopping 55 pounds. See, I don't think Inoue's ever even going to be in a situation like that.
And I know he hasn't. In fact, I know that all the other fighters on the pound-for-pound list aren't going to be put in a situation like that, because for them, pound-for-pound is just a postulation.
For them, it's just a theory. For Usyk, it's a reality. Unless you don't know and don't understand what pound for pound is, Usyk proved that 226 pounds of Alexander Usyk has more skill than 281 pounds of Tyson Fury.
221 pounds of Alexander Usyk has more skill than 245 pounds of Anthony Joshua. Because what do you think pound for pound is?
Let me simplify it for you. A pound of gold is still worth more than 2 pounds of silver.
Even though it weighs less.
Pound of gold is worth more than 3 pounds of copper.
Even though it weighs less.
Now the gold here would be Usyk's skill set that has consistently allowed him to win fights against guys who are a lot bigger than he is.
And now you know what pound for pound means.